Welcome back, everybody, to the Wellness of Madness podcast, season dos. This is our season premiere, and I'm really excited that we have two amazing guests today. They are the co-hosts of the Morning After Show with JP and Big Joe. We have JP and Big Joe. So, if this is your first time here, I am your host, Lore, and I am a wellness coach, a behavior change specialist, and a nutritionist, and my madness diagnosis is Tourette's syndrome, borderline personality disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and OCD, just to top it off. So today we're talking sobriety. And the reason we have the guests that we have is because they share a couple of things. They have some things in common. They have played in the same band, they co-host the same show, and both of them are sober. So let's go ahead and bring them in. Hello, JP. Hello, Big Joe. Welcome to the Wellness of Madness podcast.
Hello.
Look at these studs. Well, like I've said, if you guys don't know about JP and Big Joe, they host the Morning After Show. It is a chat show on Twitch, which you can find on twitch.tv/YoungPopeTV. And you could also follow JP at JP_SRB and Big Joe 616. So let's talk a little bit. JP and Big Joe, pleasure having you guys on the show. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your show, JP?
Joe and I are co-hosts of the Morning After with JP and Big Joe. We tell stories of rock and roll. We have special guests, mostly friends of ours that have been in, bands that we played with and friends we've made along the way in our little music career that's lasted over a decade now. So we're just a little chat show. We do it live every Friday on Twitch. And thanks for having us on.
Oh, absolutely. You guys have had me on several times on your show. So I'm so happy to have you guys here. And it is a really entertaining show, guys. It's at 10 in the morning Pacific time every single Friday. There's a lot to hear. A lot of stories are being told, and it's so much fun. So you two played in the same band, Zombie Holocaust. Is that right, Joe?
That is correct, from what I can remember.
From what I can remember, which kind of ties into what we're going to be talking about today. Both of you have been sober. Both of you are sober. So tell me, Big Joe, how long have you been sober for?
A little over 2 years now. My sobriety date is, 10/24/18.
Nice. Congratulations, man. That is no
Thank
easy
you.
task. What about you?
It wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy. What about you, Big JP?
I've been sober for, it is 890 days, which is 2 years, 5 months, and 6 days.
Wow. Congratulations, both of you guys.
Thank
you so much for coming on and talking about this subject that, could be a little bit tricky. You guys want to be candid, and this is the space. There's zero judgment, full tolerance. We talk about it maybe in a little different way, right? We don't have to be so careful. We're going to talk about it freely, because as we talk about on this podcast, there is a level of wellness, but there's also madness that just balances it all out, right? So let me ask this question to JP first. What made you want to take upon this behavior change?
Well, I don't think, it's a really, I'm just going to mumble for a few minutes before I answer. I don't know if one particular thing made me want to do it. Stop drinking alcohol, that is. But I do know that deep in the back of my head, I knew that I should not be drinking. I shouldn't be drinking that much, at least, because any chance I could get to drink, I would. So I think deep down I knew it was a bad idea to continue that way, but I probably would have kept going if you had not suggested that maybe I'd take a break, because I'm Coach Laura's fiance. If people don't know that, we live together. And she and Coach Laura herself said, maybe you should take a break, maybe see what your body feels like after maybe a year of not drinking. So I said, sure, because we went to a baseball game. We went to an Angels game, and I had some drinks. I was being an asshole. The next day, I'm apologizing for it, which I've done just so many times. And you're like, maybe you should take a break for a year and see how your body feels. So I did, and it's been 890 days since that day. So I think to answer your question, a lot of things led me there, but I did need a little push from a loved one.
Well, it is a very vague question, and it is really important that people come to their own realization that a change needs to be done. So, as a behavior change specialist, it's definitely important to not push the person to take the action. Obviously, as a girlfriend, it's very different. You might want to be like, hey, why not take a break, right? But it is difficult to come to terms ourselves and realize that there is some kind of behavior that you want changed. So what about you, Big Joe? Was there something specific? Was it about time? What was it that kind of triggered you to be conscious about this problem?
Me, I mean, it was kind of the cliche. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then once I kind of decided and realized that I needed to stop, it took me 5 years later to even actually do something about it. And it just, I felt like that I hung out on my bottom and just kept, people would walk by and just kick me while I was down, and I didn't feel it anymore. So in a sense, I kind of just gave up and said, this is what my life is. And, those 5 years I woke up every day, and I promised to everything in the universe that I was going to quit drinking. I'd be like driving to work, hungover every day, crying because I made this resolve. Like, I'm going to quit drinking today. By 5 o'clock, I was skipping into the liquor store like it was my birthday, and I forgot. And what it was is just, I finally hit that point to where I couldn't carry on anymore. And I had a friend that I didn't know. I knew he was sober, and I just asked him, like, hey, how do I get sober? And then the rest is history, but just, it was the help from, I had to reach out. I didn't have anybody. I think I've had 2 people in my life tell me that, hey, you probably not drink that much. I was able to hide it very well. And that was just, unfortunately, part of my persona, like big, loud, lovable. I'm not an angry drunk. There's been times where I have been angry and I've gotten into a little bit of trouble, but most of the times, I was able to pull it off. I'm a big, loud, lovable drunk guy, and that's Big Joe.
No, and you bring up a really good point. There is stages to the change, right? So get really angry because they're like, I want to change today. And it's a process because, like you said, from you becoming aware to you actually creating the change, it was about 5 years. And that's what people need to understand, that change is a process, not an event. So it just doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But the point is that you're here today, and that's a big deal. You're sober. So again, congratulations to both of you guys. It is an amazing feat, and I'm so proud of both of you guys. So here's another question. What age did you start drinking? JP?
13.
What about you, Big Joe?
I think it was probably around 13, 14. You use the word drinking, so that's continuously, like, once I started using it as a recreational thing. But alcohol has always kind of been around in my growing up, and definitely that the instance of maybe like an older cousin of mine giving me a drink, or the sip, not so much me drinking with them, or sitting around the TV watching the Raiders game, and here, you want a drink?
Sure.
And that's the old school way of doing it. You get a beer and you drink it, like, oh, that's nasty. Like, that's right, don't ever drink. It's like when you get caught smoking, they make you smoke the whole pack, and the next thing you know, all that nicotine, and you're like, dude, I need to smoke more.
Totally.
Well, but I would say about like 12 or 13. But when I really started, it was probably a little bit later, like 16, 17.
Heavier.
Once, that's when walking down the street with a big 32-ounce cup of half soda, ice, and vodka was the rest of it, and waving to the cops as they pass by. Yeah, it's just vodka,
honestly,
soda.
That's the same for me too. I started, like, I had my first drink when I was 13, but I didn't really start drinking, as you put it, till about 16. Yeah.
And Big Joe answered the question I was going to ask you, JP. Why do you think you started drinking? What was the reason that made you start drinking?
Sounded fun. I've seen seen the effects
Good answer.
it has on other people. Looks fun. Sounded fun. Older, cooler kids are doing it. That is such a stupid, terrible, terrible reason. It's not even
But
a
honest.
reason. Yeah, it's honest, and I'm not doing it because, like, oh, I want to be like those guys. But I'm looking at it like those guys look like they're having fun. So why not do it? And sure enough, my friend knew the guy BJ from Pizza Express would deliver beer with the pizza. So we called Pizza Express, 13 years old, and he just hands over a 12-pack of beer to a 13-year-old kid.
Wow, 0 questions asked.
This dude was
That's
crazy.
crazy.
He was a crazy guy, the Pizza Express dude. But yeah, he brought us a 12-pack, and me and my friend had 6 each for my first time, and we spent the night just throwing up out of his window. And like I said, it just looked fun, and boy, did I have fun just throwing up out of a window.
Just good times. Now, let me ask something else. What do you guys think makes alcohol so addicting? Now, I know this is a hard question because there's a lot of substances that are addicting. But what do you think specifically makes alcohol so addicting? Big Joe, JP?
I could jump in. Honestly, that feeling that you get. Especially after it takes a couple chugs on that beer, and then things get lighter, things get easier. Or you take that shot and that warm feeling that comes down with you, all those things that seem like they're a great idea, and then just you think about those things and you almost romanticize only that. But yeah, it's I'd have to say the carefree, the weight of the world is gone. It's no longer on your shoulders. It's who cares where the hell it is? I'm ready,
Yeah.
You agree with that, JP?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to describe the feeling it gives you, as Joe put it, but it is a strange, inspiring kind of feeling. I've been inspired by alcohol. I'll like have a couple beers and like, damn, I want to play guitar. I have an idea. Give me my guitar and I'll play, and then another beer, and then they kind of get linked. The guitar with the beer and just having fun with the beer in general. But as far as like what makes it so addicting, I think it's just that I don't want to be so vague as to say the feeling, but it is like an inspired feeling. You feel like you can do more, you have more ideas, you can talk more to different people, maybe if you're a shy person, you're not shy anymore. There's just so many things and feelings that alcohol gives to you.
And you guys,
it's hard to put your finger on it.
You guys are spot on, because actually, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the science of alcohol, but
Which one of us was more spot on? Was I more
spot on?
You guys
actually... You're like, who won? You guys actually mentioned 2 things that are very important. One of you guys were talking more about the feeling, and the other ones talked about motivation too. So what happens is that some of those neurons come from the midbrain to the nucleus accumbens, which is in charge of motivation. So it's actually making you more motivated, more relaxed, more able. But like anything, once that is abused, and it happens too often, that's when we have issues, right? But we're going to get to that in the science of alcohol a little bit later. But why don't we dive into a little bit of a brief history of alcohol, shall we? I don't know if you guys know some of this, but I know that I was surprised to learn a little bit more about alcohol. So where do you think alcohol came from? How did it start? Does anyone have any, maybe an idea of where it started?
There's a place called Liquor King down the street from my house. That's not where I thought alcohol came from there, but Joe?
I thought it came from Pizza Express.
They're the inventors of alcohol, Pizza Express. The one down, in Castro Valley, not in Auburn.
Yeah.
Here.
The Castro Valley.
I like Pizza Express. Anyways, you know what? Would it be weird to say that I didn't really care?
I'm sure.
I
I don't
didn't.
care where it came from. It's in my hand now. And who's getting more?
You know what? I'm sure that actually no one really cared. But what I find fascinating about talking about a little brief history is that we really get to know, like, how did I was always curious, like, how did this come to existence, right? Any drug, anything. I'm like, how did we get there? So it all started with some chimps. Some chimps came across some pretty overripe plums and they ate it. And well, they felt a little bit buzzed and drunk. So,
Okay.
what happens with overripe fruit is that it creates the organism of yeast, and yeast feeds off the fruit sugars, which then creates ethanol, which is the main molecule in alcohol. So, as time went by, a couple thousand years went by, different cultures started realizing this, and they're like, oh man, we can ferment our own drinks. So, we had in Egypt, they were making beer. They were getting all their whole grains and making beer. And now beer was actually part of the daily life of everyone, so much so that people would get their wages and they would also get beer as part of their wages, which is pretty crazy. They were also making wine, but they weren't making as much wine because they weren't as accessible to grapes. So they would only hold it for like very special events. Meanwhile, Greece had a ton of grapes. So they were making wine left and right, and wine was a part of their daily life as well. In Mexico, we were making pulque from cactus. In South America, we were making chicha from blue corn. In Japan, sake from rice. And in Africa, they were making banana beer, which sounds pretty good. Wrong show to talk about that,
So
but that sounds pretty amazing.
all these countries found a way. All these countries found a way to intoxicate themselves with different materials. I find that
At
amazing.
different times, which
Yeah.
is pretty amazing. But here is something very interesting. When we were drinking at that time, the alcohol levels were very low. There were about 13%. So mainly alcohol was used everyday life, and the only people that were a little concerned were philosophers, which actually Greek philosophers were kind of promoting temperance so that people wouldn't drink too much. And around that time as well, Spain, the Middle East, and there's one more, Africa, actually put a ban, which in the Middle East, there's still a ban on alcohol because people were praying drunk. So they were like, can't have this happen, which is why there is the
Wow.
Islamic rule and the ban of alcohol still in the Middle East. But nothing else too crazy was happening. So let us answer the question that I asked. What makes alcohol so addicting? Scientifically, that answer is distillation. That is what makes alcohol so addicting. Back then, we weren't dealing with this level of addiction and abuse because alcohol was such a low content on the drink. But when we distilled it and we basically got that percentage super high, like anything, we started using it for medicine. Just the same thing, with poppies, or the same way we use cocaine. We started using for medicine. But as time went by, people found that it was a commodity. People realized that rum wouldn't spoil. So what happened is they started trading it. A lot of people in the Navy and other places, they would put rum in the water so that the water wouldn't go bad. So it became a global commodity by the 1600s. So again, something that was supposed to be medicine, the reason it was distilled now is everywhere. And it's so addicting because it's so much stronger than before.
So chimps
Where'd you
were
find all this out?
Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of research. I do a lot of
Okay,
research,
all
and
right.
I knew the science of alcohol, and I was really interested in the science of it, but I didn't know the history. I was like, how did we end up with this problem on our hands?
I didn't know that chimps basically invented prison hooch.
Yes. Yes. And which is why pretty much if you ferment something on your own, or even if you're having some alcohol in your own fermented drinks, it's not as potent. So it's really, sometimes it's even good for your gut, just like kombucha, but you're not distilling it. So I
Right,
thought that was
because
pretty interesting.
I don't drink alcoholic beverages, but I do drink a kombucha basically every day, which contains a small amount of alcohol. And I'm told that a lot of uh, uh, rehab centers or places where people are trying to quit alcohol, they will ask you specifically, do not drink kombucha, because of the alcohol content. Sometimes it smells a bit of alcohol. Maybe it'll remind them of drinking alcohol or
Totally.
stuff like that. But it does have a small amount. So there you
Because
go.
it's slightly
it's good for my gut, apparently, right?
Absolutely, and it's slightly fermented, but you're absolutely right, JP. There are some places, and there's some levels to addiction too, where it would just be even just something relatable to alcohol is not a good idea, you know. But yeah, it all started with chimps, and then it went down to a commodity, and now we're here. Before we keep going, you mentioned kombucha, and I wanted to mention everybody that this show is brought to you by Everlasting Kombucha, and I've got my Beet Ginger one here today. You guys should definitely check out Everlasting Ferments, which is a delicious kombucha company, and honestly, pretty much the best kombucha I have ever had in my life. And here is the link if you guys want to check it out. And the show is also brought you by Medterra CBD. If you guys know, I use CBD every single day. It's helped me a ton. Do you guys use any CBD, JP, Big Joe?
Absolutely.
I do.
So if you guys are watching, you guys can get 20% off Medterra CBD using my promo code with folklore20. So go check it out. Get yourself some CBD.
A lot of our fans don't know this, but before every Zombie Holocaust show, Joe would have me take CBD and rub his knees with it. I would get in there, rub it all over my hands, and pull his pant leg up so it's bare, and then I would rub his knees down with CBD.
Wow.
And, yeah, it was sort of it was how I was allowed to be in the band at the start. I was kind of
a ritual.
I was a knee rubber at first,
Oh.
and then I worked up to his back a little bit, and
those were some big knees.
Yeah, it was just a pre-show thing. Joe's a big guy. He needs CBD in certain places: his knees, head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
Well, actually, that's a really good segue to my next question, Big Joe. How do you think has it been difficult being a musician and being sober at all? Has it been conflicting in any way?
Yeah, I would say yeah, definitely. I was gonna try to go yes and no, to throw the positive in there, but yeah, it's definitely been difficult. Everything seems to be moving a lot faster and kind of out of control, versus when I had now every show I played, I don't think there was probably only 2 in the past 20 years. Actually, before I got sober, I had to get drunk. I had to. It was part of the fun too, you know. But there was times where like I need to be sober, and like nope, okay, I need at least 3 beers, or I need at least this, and then give me 2 beers on stage. Or there was times where I drank and I was completely blacked out on stage, sweating bullets, trying to look at what I'm doing. Yeah, it definitely was a game changer, and just being aware of everything, being aware of everyone, was kind of terrifying. I'd gotten to play 3 gigs sober, and before the shutdown, and I got to record an album sober.
Wow. And how was that experience compared? Like, did you feel like you were more aware? Did it feel easier? Was it harder?
It was a little bit harder, but I'll tell you, I remembered it.
That's pretty nice, right? After all, life is memories, so it's nice to remember.
Well, not the last couple of years. You know, you get to a point to where when you're drinking all the time, you know, and to me, I definitely was a blackout drinker. And I was trying to drink to that certain point. Like I tried to drink to blackout every day. So there was no just one with dinner. I would skip dinner so I could drink more, you know? So I was able to function really well, blacked out. And some people wouldn't realize that I was not home. So I did a lot of playing live, and dude, just like being able to float and just whatever happens is just going to happen. And like, you know, and in your mind, probably look, yeah, your mind probably look really fucking cool. I know. And yeah, when you're aware of everything, you'd see like there was this dude trying to put guitar picks in my shoe, into my shoelaces. And I was just ignoring him. And it was my friend Hippie. And so in between, I'm just letting him do it. I'm like, whatever, I'm in the moment. I don't care. He's putting picks in my shoes. This is funny. And his wife comes up and tries to whisper in his ear, but when music's going on, you're going to yell. But she goes up to his ear and goes, and he doesn't know? That's hilarious. And I look down and I go, I fucking know, okay? Shut up. And I look around and everyone's looking at me. I fucking just play the next song. But like I said, I'm there in the moment. I get to. I went back and watched the video of me playing live with Fog of War, and it was at Burnt Ramen. And if you've ever been to Burnt Ramen, that place, pretty much the only rule was get hammered and play, because there was the rules. And I was watching a video, and it was always a cool moment in my head, and I thought I was really cool. But man, I was playing so sloppy, and it wasn't as cool as I thought it was. Maybe in the heat of the moment, but yeah, definitely looking back at it, that's like, if I want this to be one of the only things I leave for my family to see and know of me when I'm gone, you know, like, don't show them that video. Show them the cool one of me on the the USS Hornet or something.
So
not the one me drunk in the ghetto.
So it really did, like, you nailed it. You said you were aware, when you're sober, you're aware. So when you're unaware, it's just so like, yeah, we can do this. Da, 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 da. So I'm curious for JP, was this similar to you with your experience in music? And also, did it interfere with, I want to say something that sounds dumb, but with the coolness of being in a band and drinking or not drinking?
Everything that Joe said is true. Yeah, I don't think I was quite a blackout drunk, but I was drunk as much as possible, and for most shows. Yeah, playing music and drinking alcohol seem to go hand in hand. It's a nighttime activity. You're in a club, and they even give you free drinks. They give you little tickets, and you can go to the bar and get free drinks. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So yeah, when you go sober and then you go to play a gig, it did feel like something was missing a little bit. I've played a few times now since going sober. But as Joe said, I'm a lot more aware. I've noticed I can play my solos a lot better. I don't know if that's because I practiced more, or maybe my fingers aren't as numb because I haven't been drinking or something, but I can play my solos a lot better. And I had a big argument with one of my bandmates in Zombie Holocaust because I didn't want a video to go up because I didn't like my performance in the video. But I don't know if I just played poorly or if I was just, drunk and blowing it, so I'm not sure. I might have, if I have been sober, I might have played, I might have had the same performance. I might have played just as bad or not. So that's what kind of bums me out. I remember getting into a serious argument with him, like, do not put that video up. My performance is terrible. He's like, well, that's not really my problem, is it? I'm like, well, no, I guess it's not. I guess it is my problem. So it's just I think as musicians, we're just so used to having a beer next to our amp on stage, So yeah, it took a little getting used to, but it's been a couple of years now, and I'm not dying to have a drink. But in your second part of the question, you said, did I lose? Does it lose a certain cool factor? Was that what you were? Yeah, absolutely. Because the whole, and Joe and I have spoken about this, about how romanticized alcohol is with playing music, especially thrash metal music, which is what we sort of got known for playing. There's a whole party sort of element to it, and you definitely can't be in one of those bands and pretend. I don't know. I'm trying
pretend to drink, but not drink, and yeah.
Because we were in Zombie Holocaust, and our whole thing was the party patrol. We were the party patrol, and we partied for real. Like, we really partied. Nick Gomez, he had been sober for a while. He was the front man, and he's sober, so he did it. He did the whole party patrol gimmick while sober. Didn't have any alcohol whatsoever, but not us. We lived it. We absolutely lived the party patrol thing, and it would feel weird being in that band and not drinking. So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now, but thrash metal and alcohol are sort of married in a romantic way, and it sucks. It does really suck. Thankfully, I'm I'm turning 35 soon. I feel like a little too old to be even part of the cool kind of crowd in heavy metal anyway. So I don't think I think my card got revoked anyhow.
Let me
But
ask some.
I'm
Sorry, go
sober
ahead.
now and I feel a lot better for it. So
What about in skateboarding? Do you think it affected your ability to do a certain trick or to take a certain risk?
sometimes, yeah, you'll be at the skate park and you're skating and having a good time, and some beers get busted out and you're drinking, and then yeah, you get a little more brave for sure. Yeah,
Hmm? So
absolutely.
do
But
you,
I drank more with music than I did with skateboarding, to be honest.
got it.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's maybe more romanticized in music, and we know it for a fact. I mean,
Mhm.
we even in the past, not only with metal, but in classical music and all kinds of aspects of music and rock and roll and blues and R&B, everything. There is a romantic element to alcohol, which is why it's so difficult to tell kids not to do it, or anything like that. So let's talk a little bit about the science of alcohol, because this is my cup of joe here. And I think it's really important to know what happens in your body. And because you guys were very, very right on your assessment of how the feeling leads to this motivation and this feeling. So let's start it off. The reason why ethanol, which is the most important molecule in alcohol, is so easy to get into your body, it's because it's only a few carbons. It's only a few carbon molecules. Very simple molecule. And what happens the second you take that drink is that molecule travels down your stomach. Now, we all know that if you've eaten, you're not get as drunk, right? As quick. That's the reason, because it wants to be absorbed by your blood right away. So if there's a lot in your stomach, it's going to take time, and not all of that alcohol is going to get absorbed. But if it's empty, it's going to go right through the small intestine and it's going to go right through the blood. So it does matter if you eat or you don't eat. So what happens next? Now that it is in your blood, it goes to your organs, and it looks for the organs that have the most blood flow. That is your liver and that is your brain. So it enters the liver first. It's there, it's saying hello, and the liver enzymes are like, yo, one liver enzyme is going to turn it into something toxic, and the other liver enzyme is going to turn it into something not so toxic. And that little dance that they do is going to determine how much alcohol enters your brain. So then you have a certain percentage from what you drank. Let's say you drank 1 beer, or let's say you drank 16 beers. That's going to be a certain amount that's going to travel to your brain. Once it's there, because it's such an easy molecule, it's just going to nestle itself in your brain really, really easily. And what it's going to do is that it's going to turn up your GABA and it's going to turn down your glutamate. And I know these are big words, but basically what that means is that it's going to make your neurons communicate less. That's it. That's all it's going to do. Now your neurons that usually are communicating for absolutely everything they do are just not as talky, right? So they're just kind of chilling. Everything's kind of relaxed up there. So what's going to happen is that at moderate doses, you're going to feel really relaxed. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel like you're chilling. At a higher dose, you're going to feel really sleepy. And at an even higher dose, it's toxic. And what's going to happen is that your survival instinct, it's going to get numb. You're not going to be able to have a fight or flight mechanism. And that's when it gets really dangerous. So what exactly happens up there in your brain? Basically, ethanol stimulates the neurons in the midbrain, like I was talking about. It goes from the midbrain to the nucleus accumbens, which is right in the middle of your brain. That part of your brain is all about motivation. So it's going to do what most addictive drugs do, which is stimulate those neurons, and those release endorphins. And there's a big giant squirt of dopamine, right? Dopamine, that beautiful neurotransmitter that everyone loves. That's the reason we call drugs dope. It's because it goes like this to your dopamine. And now you are feeling amazing. You're on cloud nine. You can do anything. You feel motivated and excited, right? So what happens then is that the more you do it, the more dopamine starts getting released. But at a certain point, it's just not going to release that dopamine anymore. So now you're going to have to get more and more and more to get that effect. And of course, that leads to abuse. Now, the other thing we talk about in science of alcohol is that not everybody has that kind of genetic to fall into the abuse of alcohol or other drugs. That is called a genetic difference in dopamine, GABA, and endorphin transmission. So we're all made a little bit different. Because of my madness and Tourette's and my twitching, I have natural dopamine that is really high and serotonin that's really low, which means I am super stimulated. I'm super motivated all the time. But because of my lack of serotonin, I can get sad really quick, which is why I developed borderline personality disorder. So we all have a different endorphin transmission, and it's really going to depend how addicted or not you get to certain substances. But that's basically it, guys. Goes in through your mouth, goes to your stomach, goes to your blood, liver, and brain, and then it wreaks havoc on your brain. Did you guys know that?
No, but I noticed you didn't go over what happens when you butt funnel it.
Well, that's actually a really easy answer that I do have because it needs to travel to your small intestine. If you put it up your butt, it's basically there. So it's going to go straight into your blood.
There we go. Okay. I always wanted to know how that worked. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a great question. Yes, we owe it. That's why if you have a big meal, what happens when you're digesting is that your sphincter basically closes. So nothing really passes to the small intestine. So it's going to take longer for you to get drunk. But if you're an empty stomach, boom, it goes right in, which is another reason why if I'm a woman and you're a man and we drink the same amount and we eat the same meal, the girl's still going to be more drunk because she has less blood in her body. We have more fat and we have less muscle. Therefore, we have less blood. So the alcohol level is going to rise a lot faster than on a man. Let me ask you guys, now that you know the science and you know the history and you guys are sober and you guys are getting, you're still very young, but you're getting older. And like JP even said, kind of my party time's over, how on earth could we possibly tell someone that's younger to maybe not drink too much? Do you guys have an answer to that question or any ideas?
Me personally, you can tell me when I was younger. So what I try to do is lead by example. I don't hide the fact that I'm sober. I try to go out and party. Of course, I do get tired a lot quicker than I normally did, especially with my back problems and just, when it's nighttime, it's time to go put your feet up and watch Netflix, run around a club or a venue, all night or something. I'm just not that young anymore. But when you have the booze in there, you're always running around. But, I just come up and just let people know that I'm sober. Not so much I'm running around just like telling everybody. But, I'm not going to make up excuse if someone tries to buy me a beer. Go, oh, no, I'll order a Coke and I'll tell them why. I'm like, yeah, I don't drink. And they go, why? And I go, it's because I'm an alcoholic. That's exactly why. Oh, you can't just have one? I'm like, yeah, I could, but I'm turning into 45. And everyone else in here is getting drunk with me. And I've actually seen people ask me questions, just by even just saying that, hey, but how did you get sober and different things? And I don't know, I wish I kind of had, not so much someone tell me when I was younger, hey, you don't have to drink like that, but, because I think I didn't drink as much as I did get here because it didn't hurt up until like the last 5 years, but I still wish there was somebody out there, where I could go like, dude, Billy or Johnny's cool. They don't drink. I think Gomez was one of the first people that I really got to see like, damn, Nick doesn't drink. And Nick, not to give away Nick's story, but you could ask him. He was a big party animal before he quit drinking, I think a group of his loved ones came together and asked him to stop. So I do, I was out there and live the life of sobriety and not make it too much of a secret.
Nice. Because it's always nice to have a mentor, right? It's always nice to have someone you admire and them not doing certain things that maybe you thought was cool or you thought other kids were doing. So that is a big deal. What about you, JP? What do you think? How do you think we could even try to convince anyone not to abuse this substance?
Well, I was a lot like Joe, as Joe just mentioned. Like, you couldn't tell me anything. I wasn't gonna hear it. I was, when I was a teenager and in my 20s, I thought I knew everything. you know, and there were even people whom I admired that had stopped drinking, you know, but that didn't impress me or anything. It's like, okay, well, they stopped drinking. That doesn't mean I have to stop drinking. You know, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
But there's also a level of preachiness that nobody really wants to achieve. No one wants to sound that way. You know, no one wants to, you know, no one wants to sound preachy, for lack of a better word. So there's that. But at the same time, you don't want to watch people throw their life away. There's a young guy in the metal scene, a friend of mine, and Joe, I believe. But he recently kind of announced, like, hey, I need to take a break from drinking. I'm not drinking anymore right now. Basically just put his feelings out there on Facebook, you know, for everybody. And I'm sober now, and I was just like him. So, you know, I hit him up, and I was like, hey,
Nice.
this sounds weird, you know, but I know sure you got a lot of people that are willing to help you, but I've been sober for over a couple of years now, and if you ever have any questions or anything, please hit me up, because I know how being a musician in the metal scene is like. You know, you're supposed to drink, you're supposed to do all that, and he was very happy to hear that from me, and then also mentioned, you know, I don't know, I can't see myself not drinking ever again. He said, you
Mhm.
know, because that honestly, that's how far fetched it is.
Yeah.
I will drink alcohol again. You know, that's kind of
Yeah.
like the way. And even, you know, I'm sure I even had a thought of that when I started this 1 year sober thing. I was like, oh, well, you know, after a year, maybe I'll have a drink, but I just never did, because I'm realizing that it's probably better that I don't. But
No, it
as far as reaching someone else with this information, it's so hard, because we all know, the three of us all know, that that person has to want to change.
yes.
So all I can do,
Absolutely.
as Joe says, just lead by example, and really Joe put it best when he said that. Just leading
And
by example is the best way.
you guys are absolutely right. Leading by example is the best way to do it. You said the word preachy, and that is something that I've dealt with my whole life. I've always been preachy. I've been that person that has been very preachy. But the reason I became a coach is to try to convert preachiness into leadership. Right. And it's
Mhm.
the main reason was because, just like Big Joe said, and you mentioned, sometimes you think people are reaching out to people, but they're not, especially with this new age idea, an addiction to wellness. I'm going to say it, an addiction to wellness, where people are like, cut everyone that's toxic out of your life. I don't agree with that. I think that if I love you and you're toxic, you can push me 100 times, but I'm going to keep coming back to help you out, because I know what it's like to be a toxic person and no one helped me. Right. So that's what's really important. And I think you guys are right. It's really hard to tell the kids, look, this is the science, and they're not going to care. But I think it is important to know what happens to our bodies when we drink, because now that we're adults too, do you guys find yourself ever thinking about the health effects that drinking had on you, or do you guys try to fix it in any way, or does it even enter your mind, the health aspect of the abuse? Big Joe?
Yeah, so you know, especially growing up drinking, I knew that there was health effects. You know, you get all these people telling you all these things, and one of the things alcohol really helped me with is not care about my consequences, or so you know, you got years and years of abuse, and eventually you start having these things to where your body gets a little bit older and doesn't heal as fast
Mhm.
as it has. So me personally, with all my years of not taking care of myself, eating poorly, and you know, and drinking as much as I can until I can't anymore, until I can't stay awake. I gained a ton of weight from it, you know,
Mhm.
that I can't lose. And also, my back is really bad, and that really adds to it. You know, it adds a lot of you know, pressure to my lower back. You know, because my core strength is not existent anymore. You know, I put on a ton of weight,
Yeah.
and the swelling in my body, just my body blew up. I've seen pregnant women not as big as me. You know, and you know,
Information.
like Yeah, and even after 2 years, a lot of my swelling has gone down. But even after 2 years, I still experience in my right leg. Um, like if I eat the wrong kind of foods, it'll pounce back up. But I mean, I still have swelling. I have to wear compression socks every day, and on my right leg, I have to wear two. Just to get it so tight. I mean, I need to wrap it up and really just get the blood flow going on in there.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, like I ice it, I heat it, I raise it.
Huh.
But when I was younger, I didn't even care to even think of
Yeah.
take the time to take vitamins and to exercise and to at least take care of myself and to recover. And now it kind of seems like, especially when my back goes out, it takes me like 3 months to fully recover.
Oh yeah.
To get back to normal, and it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Now you mentioned a lot of body side effects. Have either of you guys encountered any mental health side effects
from
alcohol?
Not drinking?
Yeah, well, just from alcohol that you felt a little bit different now. Like, have you guys encountered any kind of anxiety, any kind of depression, any kind of anger, which are very common side effects from alcohol abuse?
Well, mentally, I'm in a lot less bad moods. As I said, you would come off some alcohol the next day. You're not going to be in a great mood, because your body you just poisoned your body for the whatever night in a row. So yeah, mentally, I've been less angry, and just it's hard to explain, because like it doesn't. I'm not necessarily saying that alcohol makes me angry, but like just that your body's hurt, from drinking poison, and over prolonged amounts of time, it has an effect on your mind. And I think that since I quit drinking, I've been able to control my mood a lot better.
Nice. No, and you're actually right to say that, because a huge side effect of alcohol abuse is ED, which is explosive disorder. Because same thing, what happens is you're drinking and you feel great, and then you need more and you need more. And it's actually what we call biochemical repair. When you guys are sober, you guys are in something called biochemical repair, which is time to repair your bodies and your mind from all of that ethanol. And what happens is that a lot of the times we do see mood changes, and we see a lot of anger, a ton of anger. And the reason is because during the time you were drunk, it affected a lot of parts of your brains, which also affects emotions, and it affects your ability to do something. So let's say that I drank for a very long time and I have those certain effects in my brain. Maybe a task that could be simple, I'm more impatient with it because I didn't create that task or do that task sober for very long. So now I'm trying to do these tasks that I used to do drunk sober. Of course, it's going to affect your level of patience, your ability. It's going to affect a lot of things. So it is important to say that. And with that said, if you guys see below, we do have www.alcohol.org. If you guys are in need of finding any AA meetings or any help, and you're listening or watching the show, we also have the number for Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration of United States, which is 1-800-662-4357. Again, 1-800-662-4357. 4357. I have said it and I'll always say it. If you guys ever need anything out there, you're listening, you can always leave comments below. You can always contact me at With Folklore on Instagram, or our podcast, The Wellness of Madness. Even though we are not going to diagnose and we're not therapists, I will be there to help you find any help that you need, because we're in this together. We are a society, guys. We're a community. We need to help each other out. So let's go quickly through some tips before we close up shop today. As a nutritionist, I wanted to talk to you guys about biochemical repair and just some tips to help the process along of bringing your brain and your body back to that balance. So something we have seen in nutrition is that after we've had alcohol abuse and we are sober, we see a big deficiency in vitamin B and protein. we see those deficiencies happen. So something really easy, of course, is a vitamin B vitamin, and also getting more protein into your diet. And I will have a follow-up sheet on this podcast, kind of breaking down exactly why you become deficient and how you can regain that deficiency. We also see a lot of blood sugar go up the roof because this is what happens. So we crave things, and we might have an addictive personality, or I don't want to say personality, an addictive being. And what's going to happen is oftentimes, if it's not alcohol, it's going to be something else. So we might be running for those sugary snacks. We might be running for something, for smoking, for anything else that's going to kind of be addicting. So what we tell people is to stick to a diet that's low glycemic. Basically, foods that are not going to spike up your sugar levels so quickly, because that's going to give you that rush of dopamine that alcohol does. And it's just going to feed your addiction. So it is really important to have healthy eating habits. I know it's way easier said than done, which ties into cravings. We will often get a lot of cravings because of that. We're not craving the taste of the sugar. We're not craving whatever we're going to get. We're craving the dopamine rush. So we have to start to set our habits to have less cravings. And the last is high protein can help increase the number of dopamine receptors. And that's part of your gut microbiota. Basically, all those dopamines that's just not working so much, protein helps bring those receptors back to life and create new ones. So having a ton of protein in your diet, super, super important. And scientists are looking at the link between inflammation, like you were talking about, Big Joe, a lot of inflammation in the body, and neurotransmitters in the bacteria of the microbes in your gut, which means, I've said it a million times, your gut is like your second brain. You got to take care of it. So this is really something I found by Dr. McLean. It said, we found that people with alcohol liver disease, there's a significant alteration in the gut microbiota, and the alteration plays a critical role in the development of liver disease. Additionally, it's thought that the inflammation that alcoholics get in the liver can also happen in the brain. That brain inflammation has been linked to cravings, anxiety, and depression. So kudos, JP, for having a kombucha every day, having fermented foods, yogurt, anything that's going to help our gut is so, so important, guys. So those are just a couple of tips. I will write more things about sobriety and nutrition, because it does go hand by hand, as well as habits. Behavior and habits are very, very important. So guys, let's finish up with some questions. Do you guys have any tips or advice for someone out there right now that is maybe attempting to be sober? Maybe they don't have a lot of friends or a lot of family help them out. JP, let's start with you. What would you tell them, and how would you maybe attempt to guide them through this process?
Well, I'm lucky to have a nice support system. I have a nice family here at home. They care about me very much. It is very important to have someone to talk to. I will say that. Everyone's situation is going to be different. Obviously, it's really hard to give advice for this kind of thing. But I think getting your feelings out and finding someone to talk to is very, very important. That's what I'll say. I know what Joe will say, because Joe said it to me before, is that the one thing that you should do is focus only on being sober. Is that right, Joe?
That's what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
For the first year, I was told to not change anything, just focus on being sober. Don't quit your job. Don't get a new job. Don't sell your house. Don't move. Don't buy a new house. Don't break up with your girlfriend or divorce your wife. Just don't get a girlfriend or wife. Just solely focus on being sober for that year.
That's the best advice I can imagine. Yeah.
That is excellent advice, because if we want to change a behavior, we can't try to figure out how to change 7 behaviors, right? We got to go one at a time, one thing, and focus as long as it's going to take. So Big Joe, how did you actually get help? Did you reach out to a certain place? Was it AA? Was it something else? Or did you do this on your own?
So I sat there and tried to find AA meetings for about a good 6 months, trying to Google it. And the website was really confusing. And so it took me a long time. And what I did was I reached out to two people, and one got back to me quicker than the other, but it was my friend who was sober, and he got me hooked up into a 12-step program. And pretty much it was the best guy I could have asked, because he got me everything I needed, and he didn't push me to the door. I was ready to walk. I was completely finished. I was done. I like to say that I was so ready to get sober that if you guys told me that the pile of rocks outside, you just need to eat those and you'll be sober, I would have ran out there and started munching on those rocks, and I wouldn't even question it. I wouldn't even let you have them. These are my rocks and I'm getting sober. I was so defeated, and I was in so much pain, and I was so just not even sad anymore. Just my soul was gone. My advice for anybody trying to look, there's help out there. You just got to make that jump, and you just got to ask for help. And there's so many people out there willing to help. But even being at our bottom, even being defeated and being done, our pride still gets in the way of that. I'm like, no, I can't ask. I was afraid to ask. Mm-hmm. Getting sober was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me ever. Next to being a father, next to I love being a musician. I love doing talk things like this, especially when I manage JP, and even you, Laura. But you know what? I would not be able to do any of this if I wasn't sober.
Absolutely, man. Wow. No, I love hearing this, and thank you for mentioning about the website, because that's what I want to tell anyone. If you're listening or if you're watching, if anything becomes a little too difficult, always go to your communities. There's a lot of groups, there's Facebook groups, there's Instagram groups, there's a lot of people out there that are in your sober community or attempting to be. So please reach out. Like I said, you can reach out to myself, and you can always reach out to these guys, which are just phenomenal human beings. They're great musicians. They're great people. You guys need to watch that show. There's so much to talk about, guys. Again, that is The Morning After with JP and Big Joe, and it is available on Twitch, but you can also watch it on Facebook. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it everywhere. So I wanted to wrap it up by saying thank you so much, because it's not always simple talking about these things, right? It's you have to be candid, and it often can be scary talking about that part of our lives. But to tell you and everyone out there is, don't be ashamed of your past, no matter how dark it was, no matter how toxic it was, no matter anything, because that past has brought you here today, exactly where you are. And if there are still things you need to change, that's the best part. You're alive and you can still change them. No matter how scary it feels, no matter how impossible it feels to change, change is possible. It always will be.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us on. Please check out The Morning After with JP and Big Joe, as you guys have already mentioned. You can find it on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. We already said that, so thank you. I'm in a band called Stray Rebel Bullet. You can find them on Spotify and Instagram, all that stuff. Got a new record coming out next year. Excited about that. And yeah, that's about it. That's it, folks.
That's it, folks. Well, thank you guys. Again, thank you for being musicians that are setting up a nice example of sobriety, that it is possible, you are capable, and we don't have to romanticize all this junk anymore of stuff. You don't have to be cool and drink and do all this shit. You can just be yourself and be damn cool. All right, everybody? All right. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next time, everybody.